The emergency lights bathed the council chamber in red as Ambassador Velrith stepped to the center platform. Around him, representatives from 43 species waited in their designated sections. The massive circular room fell silent as Velrith raised his three-fingered hand. "They are gone," he announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. Every human, every colony, every station, all of them vanished in 72 hours. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Some sounded shocked. Others sounded relieved. Velrith continued speaking, his tone measured and calm. "Our scout ships have confirmed it. Earth is empty. The orbital cities around their homeworld are abandoned. Their mining colonies in the outer systems show no life signs. Every human ship has disappeared from our tracking networks. They left nothing behind except empty buildings and silent machines." In the back observation deck, Hyan watched through the transparent barrier. He was young, barely 25 in Earth years, and until 3 days ago, he had worked as an assistant to the human ambassador. Now he was the only human left in council space. The humans had asked him to stay. They said someone needed to remember. Someone needed to witness what came next. Velrith projected images on the holographic display. Abandoned cities on 7 different worlds appeared in floating panels. The buildings stood intact. The streets were clean, but no people walked there anymore. It looked like everyone had simply stopped what they were doing and left. "We estimate they evacuated 47 billion individuals," Velrith said. "They dismantled their infrastructure with remarkable efficiency. They took their databases, their research, their technology. They even removed their satellites from orbit. The only things remaining are basic structures and some personal items." A delegate from the Cassari Collective stood up. Her scales gleamed under the chamber lights. "Did they leave any explanation? Any message for the council?" Velrith shook his head. "Nothing official. We found personal logs in some locations. Diary entries. Children's drawings. Messages between families. But nothing addressed to us. It appears they simply chose to leave without informing us of their decision or destination." Another delegate, this one from the Varash Empire, spoke up. His voice was rough and aggressive. "Good riddance. The humans were always unpredictable, always pushing boundaries, always questioning established protocols. The galaxy is better without their chaos." Several delegates made sounds of agreement. Hyan felt his hands tighten into fists. He forced himself to stay quiet and keep watching. That was his job now. Watch and remember. Velrith nodded slowly. "Indeed. The Council has discussed the human problem for decades. Their rapid advancement was concerning. In 300 years, they went from primitive chemical rockets to matching our fastest ships. They solved mathematical problems that had stumped our greatest minds for millennia. Their diplomatic corps could forge alliances we thought impossible. And that was the problem," another delegate added. "They were too unpredictable, too creative, too willing to break rules we had followed for thousands of years. How could we trust them with real power in the Council?" Velrith brought up more data on the displays. "The humans requested formal representation on this council 3 times over the past 50 years. Each time, we voted to deny them. We cited their youth as a species, their emotional instability, their tendency toward violence in their history. But perhaps the real reason was simpler. We feared what they might become if given equal standing." The chamber fell quiet. No one wanted to say it out loud, but everyone knew it was true. The humans had scared them, not with weapons or threats, but with potential, with possibility, with the uncomfortable reminder that the established order was not the only way to do things. "So what do we do now?" asked a small delegate from one of the minor species. "Do we search for them? Try to bring them back?" Velrith's expression was unreadable. The Council has voted. We will seal all records of human civilization. Their former territories will be divided among the major powers. We will treat this as if humanity never existed. It is better this way. Cleaner. We can return to the stability we had before they arrived. The vote was called. 42 species voted in favor. Only one voted against, a small species that had maintained friendly trade with humans. The decision was made. Humanity would be erased from official records. As the delegates began to leave, Hyan noticed something strange. He accessed the public data networks using his personal device. Already, information about humans was being removed. Historical records were being edited. Trade agreements were being rewritten to remove human involvement. It was happening fast, efficiently, like they had planned it in advance. Hyan made his way to the abandoned Terran Gateway station 3 days later. The station floated in space, dark and empty. He walked through corridors that still smelled faintly of the coffee humans loved. He passed by recreation rooms where card games sat abandoned mid-play. In the engineering section, he found the workspace of Minji, the chief engineer. Her station was neat and organized. Tools were arranged by size. Diagnostic equipment was powered down properly. On her desk, Hyan found a small notebook. He opened it carefully. Inside were handwritten notes about station maintenance, repair schedules, and power distribution. The last entry was dated the day before the exodus. It read, "Final checks complete. All systems stable. Leave everything in working order. They will need it when things start falling apart. They just don't know it yet." Hyan copied the notebook into his personal archive. He would find more of these. More clues about what the humans had really been doing in this galaxy. More evidence of the truth that the Council was trying to bury. In another section of the station, he found a classroom. Small desks were arranged in rows. On the walls, children had drawn pictures of their families, their pets, their dreams of exploring the stars. One drawing showed a human child and an alien child holding hands. The caption read, "Friends Forever." Hyan took pictures of everything. He recorded video of the empty halls. He copied every database fragment he could find. The Council wanted to forget humanity. Hyan would make sure that was impossible. As he prepared to leave the station, Hyan accessed the command center one last time. He found something interesting in the navigation logs. The humans had not left randomly. Every ship, every transport, every vessel had departed following a precise pattern. They had all gone in the same direction. Out toward the galactic rim. Toward the empty spaces between spiral arms, where no one ever traveled. They had left together. They had left organized. This was not panic or fear. This was a planned evacuation. The humans had made a choice. Hyan thought about Ambassador Minho, the last human representative. The old man had spoken to him privately before leaving. His words echoed in Hyan's memory now. "We asked 3 times to be heard. 3 times they said no. We are tired, young friend. Tired of fighting for respect we will never receive. Tired of being feared for the crime of being different. So we go. We leave them their galaxy. And we will see what they make of it without us." Hyan had asked where they were going. Minho had smiled sadly. "Somewhere we can be ourselves. Somewhere we don't have to apologize for existing. Take care of yourself, Hyan, and remember everything. They will need someone who remembers when the truth becomes unavoidable." Now, standing in the empty command center, Hyan understood. The humans had not just left. They had removed themselves like a carefully extracted piece from a complex machine. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would discover what happened when that piece was gone. The question was whether they would understand the lesson before it was too late. 18 months passed since humanity disappeared. Hyan worked quietly in the council archives, cataloging data that no one else wanted to look at. His position was minor, unimportant. That was exactly what he needed. It let him move through the bureaucracy like a ghost, seeing everything while being noticed by no one. The first reports came from the Varash Empire. Commander Jiho read the tactical display with growing confusion. His fleet had entered the Terran neutral zone 3 weeks ago. The territory was legally abandoned now. The Council had awarded it to the Varash as compensation for trade losses. It was supposed to be an easy occupation. Resource-rich systems with no defenders. But something was wrong. Contact lost with the 5th Scout Group, his tactical officer reported. That is the 3rd group in 2 days. Jiho pulled up the star charts. The scout groups had all disappeared in the same region. A cluster of asteroids near the 4th planet of the Kepler-7 system. Humans had maintained a research station there once. The records said they were studying local minerals. Send a full battalion, Jiho ordered. Whatever is picking off our scouts needs to be eliminated. The battalion never reported back. Jiho took his flagship directly to the site. What he found there made his blood cold. The asteroid field was full of debris. Vorash ships torn apart by weapons fire. But not the kind of weapons his people used. These were precise, calculated. Every ship had been disabled with minimal ammunition. Every crew pod had been separated intact before the vessels were destroyed. And in the center of the field, still operational, was a network of human defense satellites. Impossible, Jiho whispered. The humans left 18 months ago. These systems should be offline. His science officer examined the data. Sir, these satellites are running on automatic protocols. They are programmed to defend this region against any unauthorized entry. They identify our ships as hostile because we have not provided the proper access codes. Access codes the humans never gave us, Jiho said bitterly. Worse news came 3 days later. The Kari swarm emerged from the asteroid field. Jiho had heard stories about the swarm. Everyone had. They were an insectoid species that consumed everything in their path. Mindless, endless, unstoppable. The histories said the swarm had been contained centuries ago in the deep regions of space. Apparently, the histories were wrong. The swarm hit Jiho's fleet like a hammer. Thousands of small ships, each carrying bioweapons and acid dispensers. They tore through shields using tactics that adapted in real time. Jiho lost half his fleet in the first hour. He ordered a full retreat, breaking through the human satellites that no longer mattered compared to this new threat. When he reported back to Varash Command, they did not believe him at first. The swarm was supposed to be extinct, or contained, or something. But as more reports came in from other sectors, the truth became impossible to deny. The Kari swarm was loose, and it was spreading fast. Hyan found the explanation in an old human research file buried in the archives. The document was written by a scientist named Sora. Her specialty was xenobiology, the study of alien life forms. The file was dated 15 years before the human exodus. Sora had written, "The Kari swarm remains contained in Sector 779. Our automated defense network continues to function as designed. The swarm makes breakthrough attempts every 3 to 4 months. All attempts have been neutralized. Recommend continued monitoring and maintenance of defense systems. Note, if maintenance ever stops, estimate 4 to 6 months before swarm breaks containment." Hyan did the math. Humanity left 18 months ago. The swarm appeared 3 weeks ago. The timeline matched perfectly. The human satellites had held for a while after being abandoned, but eventually they ran out of power or ammunition or whatever they needed. And the swarm had broken free. More problems emerged across the galaxy. Trade routes that humans had maintained began to fail. Ships got lost in subspace anomalies. What should have been 3-week journeys turned into 3-month nightmares. Merchant vessels reported strange interference in regions that humans used to patrol. Pirates appeared in sectors where crime had been mysteriously low for decades. Entire convoys were stolen. Trade stations were raided. When the Council sent peacekeeping forces, they found themselves outmatched. The pirates had advanced weapons and ships that seemed almost military-grade. Hyon found more human records. Trade manifests. Patrol schedules. Security reports. The picture became clearer with each document he discovered. The humans had not just been living in the galaxy. They had been maintaining it. Their merchant ships were actually disguised military vessels. Their trading posts had hidden weapon systems. Their civilian freighter captains were trained soldiers. They had been protecting the trade routes without anyone knowing. Now those routes were vulnerable. Strange rifts began appearing in subspace. Scientists detected them first as sensor glitches. Then ships started disappearing near the anomalies. The rifts were growing, spreading like cracks in glass. They appeared in regions where humans had conducted research projects marked as theoretical physics studies. One rift opened near the Cassari homeworld. It was small at first, barely visible, but it grew. Within a week, it was large enough to swallow small asteroids. Within 2 weeks, it was affecting planetary orbits. The Cassari government evacuated 3 cities on their moon. As a precaution, Hyon found a research station. Log written by someone named Dayan. He had been 12 years old, the son of 2 scientists. His video diary entries were saved on a broken datapad found in an abandoned school. "Mom and Dad work on the Rift project," Dayan said in one entry. His young face was serious and proud. "They say it is very important. The rifts are natural phenomena, but they can grow if not stabilized. Mom says they have to monitor 7 different locations and keep them from expanding. Dad says it is like putting bandages on reality. I do not really understand, but it sounds cool." Another entry from a month before the Exodus. "We are leaving soon. All humans have to go. Mom says the Council does not want us here anymore. I asked if the rifts will be okay without monitoring. She got really quiet. Then she said the Council does not know about the rifts. They never asked what we were doing. They just wanted us gone. I hope the rifts do not grow too much." The Council finally noticed when the Kari swarm destroyed 3 entire battle fleets. The species were not mindless at all. They were intelligent, adaptive, and absolutely merciless. They learned from every engagement. They evolved their tactics within hours. They consumed destroyed ships and somehow incorporated the technology into their own vessels. An emergency session was called. Velrith stood again at the center platform, but this time he looked worried. The confidence from 18 months ago was gone. "We are facing multiple simultaneous crises," he announced. "The Kari swarm controls 7 systems and is expanding rapidly. Trade routes are failing. Subspace anomalies are appearing in 14 different sectors. Pirate activity has increased by 300%. And we have reports of ancient automated defense systems activating in regions humanity used to occupy." A Cassari delegate stood up. Her scales were pale with stress. "These cannot all be coincidences. These problems appeared after the humans left." "What are you suggesting?" Velrith asked. "I am suggesting the humans were doing more than we realized. I am suggesting they were maintaining systems we did not know existed. I am suggesting we made a terrible mistake." Arguments erupted throughout the chamber. Some delegates refused to believe humans could have been that important. Others demanded investigations. A few insisted this was all human sabotage, that they had broken things deliberately before leaving. Hyon watched from his observation point and said nothing. He already knew the truth. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had been the galaxy's maintenance crew. They fixed problems before anyone noticed they existed. They contained threats before they became crises. They maintained peace without asking for credit or recognition. And the Council had not just ignored their contributions. They had actively prevented humans from having any official authority. They denied humanity representation while expecting them to handle every difficult situation. They feared human potential while depending on human competence. Now, the bills were coming due. Velrith called for calm and order. We will dispatch research teams to former human territories. We will analyze their methods and replicate their work. This situation is manageable. But Hyan saw the fear in Velrith's eyes. The ambassador was beginning to understand. The galaxy had not been stable because of council wisdom or ancient traditions. It had been stable because 47 billion humans worked day and night to keep it that way. They had been invisible engineers holding together a machine that everyone else assumed ran itself. And now that machine was starting to break. 3 years after humanity left, the galaxy was burning. Hyan stood in his small apartment and watched the news feeds from 17 different worlds. All of them showed the same story: chaos, war, disaster, collapse. The Kari swarm had consumed 23 systems. Billions were dead. Entire species faced extinction. The Council's military forces had tried everything. Conventional weapons barely slowed the swarm down. Nuclear strikes just made them angry. Biological weapons had no effect on creatures that adapted within hours. The swarm learned from every attack and came back stronger. The subspace rifts were worse. They had merged into larger tiers in reality. Scientists called it the void. It was spreading like cancer through the galaxy. Anything that touched the void simply ceased to exist. Planets, stars, entire solar systems disappeared into nothing. The laws of physics broke down near the edges. Time moved differently. Light bent in impossible ways. Ships that got too close were found weeks later. Their crews aged to death, or turned into children, or sometimes just gone. And then there was the plague. It started in the Cassari Collective, their species who had voted most enthusiastically to erase humanity from the records. The disease spread through their population like wildfire. It attacked their neural systems, causing paralysis and brain death within days. Medical teams had never seen anything like it. They had no cure, no treatment, no idea where it came from. Hyan knew where it came from. He had found the records 3 months ago in an abandoned human medical facility. A doctor named Yunji had run the lab. Her research notes were meticulous and detailed. She had identified the plague organism 30 years ago. It was native to Cassari space, dormant in their ecosystem. It would have emerged naturally within decades. The humans had developed a vaccine and distributed it secretly through trade goods and diplomatic gifts. The Cassari had been vaccinated without knowing it. For 30 years, they were protected by human medicine while their leaders voted to deny humans basic representation. Now the humans were gone, and so was the vaccine production. The plague they should have faced decades ago was finally claiming its victims. Yunji's last log entry was bitter. We saved them. We saved all of them. The Cassari, the Varash, the small species everyone forgets. We found their hidden dangers and fixed them before they became crises. And they hate us for being different. They fear us for being capable. I am tired. We are all tired. Let them save themselves for once. The Council sent expeditions to every former human world. Desperate searches for technology, for answers, for anything that might help. What they found instead were ghosts. Not literal ghosts, but echoes of humanity. Personal belongings left behind. Children's toys. Family photos. Memorial walls and stations where humans had honored their dead. One expedition found a school on Mars, humanity's first colony beyond Earth. The building was perfectly preserved. Classrooms still had lessons written on boards. A history class had been studying the Council's founding. A science class had been learning about subspace physics. An art class had drawings pinned to the walls. One drawing showed a human child and several alien children playing together. The caption read, "Friends from different stars." Another showed Earth and other worlds connected by lines of light. The caption said, "We are all neighbors." A third showed a human offering a hand to an alien. The caption was simple, "Help each other." The expedition leader, a Vorash officer, sent the images back to the Council. His report was short. They were children, just children who wanted to belong. And we told them they were not good enough. Hyan received access to more locations as the Council became desperate for his help. He was the only person who understood human filing systems, their language nuances, their way of organizing information. They needed him, even though some Council members still looked at him with suspicion for being human. Dash raised. He found Commander Sung Ho's personal logs in a military installation near the Galactic Core. Sung Ho had been security chief of Terran Station 7, one of humanity's largest military outposts. His logs were encrypted, but Hyan had learned human cryptography. Breaking the code took 3 days. What he found inside changed everything. Seung Ho had written. Today we detected the Kari swarm testing our containment systems in Sector 779. This is the 18th attempt this year. They are getting smarter. Our AI predicts containment will fail within 5 years if maintenance continues. If maintenance stops, containment fails in 6 months. I have reported this to Ambassador Mino. He says the Council refuses to acknowledge the swarm exists. They call our reports paranoid fantasies. So we keep maintaining the containment ourselves. We keep protecting them from threats they refuse to see. Another entry from 2 years later. The subspace rifts in Sector 12 are growing faster than projected. We have established 3 new monitoring stations and deployed 17 stabilization units. Cost is enormous. Resources are stretched thin. Ambassador Mino met with the Council again today. He requested support for the rift projects. The Council denied the request. They said if the rifts were real threats, other species would have discovered them. They accused us of inventing problems to make ourselves seem important. A third entry from 1 year before the Exodus. A Cassary plague organism has mutated. Our vaccine still works, but we need to update the formula. Dr. Yunji says the new version will take 3 months to distribute through normal channels. The Council will not approve medical aid shipments to Cassary space. They say it sets a bad precedent. They say every species must be self-sufficient. So we hide the vaccine in trade goods again. We save them again. And they vote against our Council representation again. The final entry was dated 1 week before humanity left. Ambassador Mino called a meeting today. All department heads attended. He said the vote is final. We asked 3 times for basic representation. We were denied 3 times. The Council wants our work, but not our presence. They want our solutions, but not our voices. They want us to be servants, not equals. We have decided. We leave. We take everything we built. We shut down everything we maintained. We give them exactly what they asked for. A galaxy without humans. Let them learn what that means. Hyan compiled everything into a comprehensive report. He presented it to the Council in their emergency session. The chamber was half empty now. Many species were dealing with disasters on their homeworlds. Those who attended looked exhausted and frightened. He stood at the center platform where Velrith had announced humanity's departure 3 years ago. Now Velrith sat in the audience, looking old and defeated. Hyan activated the holographic displays and began speaking. His voice was quiet but clear. For 300 years, humanity maintained 10,000 invisible safeguards across this galaxy. They suppressed stellar phenomena that would have sterilized entire sectors. They monitored quarantine zones around existential threats. They contained rogue AI, ancient weapons, and dimensional breaches. They did this work without recognition, without authority, without thanks. They did it because they believed in galactic civilization. They believed in cooperation between species. He showed images of human installations, defense networks, monitoring stations, research outposts, medical facilities. Every single one abandoned now. They asked 3 times for representation on this council. Not for control, not for dominance, just for a voice, for acknowledgement, for the basic respect of being included in decisions that affected them. Each time, you voted no. You cited their youth as a species, their emotional instability, their violent history. But the real reason was simpler. Hyan met Velrith's eyes directly. You were afraid. Afraid that humans would change the established order. Afraid that their rapid advancement would make your ancient civilizations look stagnant. Afraid that their different perspective would challenge your comfortable traditions. So you used them. You depended on their work while denying them dignity. A delegate tried to interrupt. Hyan kept speaking. Now you face the consequences. The carry swarm that humanity contained for 2 centuries. The subspace rifts they stabilized for decades. The plague they prevented. The trade routes they protected. The peace they maintained through quiet diplomacy. All of it is gone. Because you chose fear over wisdom. He brought up one final image. It was a time-locked capsule found near Earth's orbit. Inside was a recording from Ambassador Mino. The old man's face appeared on the displays. He looked sad but calm. His voice was gentle. We asked 3 times to be heard. You chose silence. Now you will understand what silence truly costs. We bear you no hatred. We simply choose peace for ourselves. We choose dignity over desperation. We choose to leave rather than fight for scraps of respect from those who will never grant it willingly. May you find what we could not. Wisdom before necessity demands it. Goodbye. The recording ended. The chamber was silent. Some delegates looked ashamed. Others looked angry. A few looked lost, like children who had broken something precious and did not know how to fix it. Velrith stood slowly. He looked at Hyan with something like respect for the first time. Can we find them? Can we bring them back? We can offer them representation now. We can give them authority. We can make amends. Hyan shook his head. I have searched every database, every navigation log, every communication archive. Humanity left no coordinates. They transmitted no destination. They simply went toward the galactic rim and vanished. They do not want to be found. They do not want your apologies. They want what they always wanted, to be left alone, to live in peace. You have given them that, just not in the way anyone expected. Then what do we do? Another delegate asked desperately. Hyan looked at the displays showing disasters across the galaxy. You survive. If you can. Humanity built these safeguards over 3 centuries. You will not replicate them in 3 years. You will not replicate them in 30 years. The best you can do is evacuate threatened worlds. Save who you can. Adapt to the new reality. A reality where you must solve your own problems without expecting humanity to fix them silently in the background. He walked away from the platform. His job was done. The truth was delivered. What the Council did with it was no longer his concern. 5 years after humanity's departure, the galaxy looked like a war zone without a war. The Council met in a fortified station deep in protected space. They had moved 4 times already as the void consumed their previous locations. Only 32 species were represented now. 11 had gone extinct. The others were too busy surviving to send delegates. Hyan walked through the station corridors and barely recognized the place. It used to be orderly, clean, dignified. Now refugees filled every available space. Different species crowded together in temporary shelters. Children who would have never met in normal times played together in makeshift schools. Doctors from rival civilizations worked side by side in overwhelmed medical bays. The crisis had done what 3,000 years of council diplomacy could not. It had made everyone equal in their desperation. He arrived at the archive room he had claimed as his workspace. The walls were covered with images, documents, and data streams. A map of the galaxy showed the void in red. It covered a quarter of known space now. The Kari swarm was marked in purple. They controlled another quarter. The remaining half was a patchwork of struggling civilizations trying to hold together. Hyan had spent years decoding human files. He had found contingency plans, documents, labeled Scenario Omega in human databases. They detailed everything humanity predicted would happen after they left. The swarm breaking free, the rifts expanding, the plague emerging, even the political instability and territorial wars that followed. But the Scenario Omega documents did not just predict problems. They offered solutions, detailed technical solutions, Yunji's vaccine formulas, Sora's containment protocols for the swarm, Junho's equations for stabilizing subspace rifts, Sungho's defense strategies. Everything needed to fix the galaxy. There was just one problem. The solutions required human technology. Technology that operated on principles other species had never discovered. Techniques that needed human psychological traits. Their pattern recognition that saw connections others missed. Their creative problem-solving that ignored established limitations. Their stubbornness that refused to accept impossible as an answer. A young Kasuri scientist had tried to replicate Yunji's vaccine. She worked for 8 months and failed. She came to Hyan crying with frustration. The formula makes no sense. The chemical reactions should not work this way. The biological mechanisms violate 3 different laws of medicine. How did the humans make this work? Hyan had read Yunji's notes carefully. He found the answer in a side comment. Standard approach failed. Tried 17 variations using conventional methodology. Success came from ignoring what textbooks said was impossible and testing what felt right intuitively. Sometimes science is about following your instincts, even when the math says no. That was humanity. They followed instincts when logic failed. They tried impossible things because no one told them it could not be done. They broke rules because they did not know the rules existed. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. The council had feared that creativity. They had called it chaos and instability. They had voted to keep humans out of power because humans made them uncomfortable. Humans questioned things. Humans suggested new approaches. Humans did not respect tradition just because it was old. No, the galaxy was paying the price for that fear. A coup happened in the council 3 months ago. Velarith's daughter, a younger delegate named Caris, had led it. She was part of a coalition of younger members who had grown up knowing humans, who had human friends before the Exodus, who remembered humanity as neighbors and colleagues, not as threats. Caris found Hyan in his archive room. She looked tired but determined. We need the truth. All of it. My generation knows something is wrong. We know our parents made mistakes, but they will not talk about it. You were there. You know why humanity was really denied representation. Hyan hesitated. Then he activated his personal files. The documents he had gathered over 5 years. Council meeting transcripts. private communications between delegates, secret votes, all the evidence he had been saving for this moment. Your parents feared humanity, he said quietly. Not their weapons, not their military. Every species in the council had better weapons than humans. The Vorash alone could have conquered Earth with a single fleet. But that was not what scared the council. He showed her the files. Private messages between council members from 50 years ago, when humanity first requested representation. One message from a Vorash admiral. The humans solved the Kepler paradox in 30 years. Our greatest mathematicians worked on it for 3,000 years and failed. What happens when they turn that capability toward military strategy? Political theory? Economic systems? They will reshape everything. Another from a Cassari elder. Human diplomats are too effective. They forge alliances we thought impossible. They make enemies into friends. They find common ground where we saw only differences. If they gain council authority, they will reorganize everything. Our power structures will become obsolete. A third from a smaller species representative. Humans terrify me. Not because they are cruel, but because they are kind. They help everyone. They solve everyone's problems. What happens when people realize humans are more effective than the council? What happens when species start looking to Earth for leadership instead of to us? We lose everything. Caris read through the files with growing horror. They denied humanity because humans were too good at helping people? Because they were afraid of being replaced? Yes, Hyan said. The council was not built on competence. It was built on age and tradition and established hierarchies. Species had positions because they were ancient civilizations, not because they were effective leaders. Humanity threatened that entire system. Not with violence or conquest, but with competence, with results, with being genuinely better at solving problems. Caris sat down heavily. So they used humanity. They let humans handle every difficult situation. They depended on human innovation for solutions. But they refused to acknowledge humanity's contributions publicly. They wanted the benefits without sharing power. Exactly. And when humanity asked 3 times to be included, the council saw it as a threat, not an offer of partnership, a threat to their comfortable positions. So they voted no. They convinced themselves it was about human instability, or youth, or violence. But really, it was about fear of change. Fear of excellence they could not match. Caris looked at the galaxy map on Hyan's wall. The red and purple zones of destruction. And now we are dying because we were too afraid to share power with those who could have saved us. You are dying because you confused fear with wisdom. Hyan corrected gently. Your parents made that mistake. But you do not have to repeat it. She stood up, new determination in her eyes. I need these files. All of them. The full truth needs to be public. Every species needs to know what happened, what we lost, what we threw away because of pride and fear. Hyan gave her access to everything. She left to present it to what remained of the council. That session became legendary. Caris stood in the central platform and showed evidence of the conspiracy. The deliberate denial of humanity. The secret votes. The private admissions that humans were being punished for competence. Older delegates tried to defend themselves. They cited security concerns. They talked about maintaining stability. They insisted they had good reasons for their choices. But the evidence was overwhelming. The younger delegates and the desperate refugees watching the broadcast saw through the ton. Excuses. The council dissolved 3 days later. Not through violence or formal vote, but through irrelevance. The surviving species realized they did not need representatives sitting in chambers debating policy. They needed workers in the field saving lives. They needed doctors treating the plague. They needed engineers maintaining what little infrastructure remained. They needed soldiers holding the line against the swarm. The old council had been about power and prestige. The new reality was about survival. There was no time for politics when existence itself was threatened. Hyan continued his work in the archives. He found more human files, more solutions to current problems, more evidence of how deeply humanity had woven themselves into galactic civilization. It was like trying to remove threads from cloth. Pull one thread and everything unraveled. He found video logs from a girl named Yuna. She had been 15 when humanity left. Her diary entries showed a teenager dealing with normal problems. School stress, friend drama, wondering if a boy liked her. But mixed with that were entries about the Exodus. Dad says we are leaving soon. Everyone at school is sad. The alien kids are crying. They do not understand why we have to go. Honestly, I do not understand either. Dad says the council will not let us have representatives. Mom says it means they use us, but do not respect us. I just know my best friend Tara, from the Cassari exchange program, is devastated. We promised to always be friends. How do I keep that promise when we are leaving the galaxy? Another entry. Last day of school today. The teachers tried to make it fun, but everyone was too sad. We had a party. We shared memories. The humans and aliens both cried together. Tara gave me a bracelet she made. I gave her my favorite book. She asked why the adults have to be so stupid. I did not have an answer. Why do adults always ruin everything? The final entry. We leave tomorrow. I am scared. I am angry. I am sad. I do not want to go, but Dad says we have to. He says the council made its choice, and we have to make ours. He says sometimes you have to walk away from people who will not appreciate you. I asked if we will ever come back. He said no, not to this galaxy, not to these species. We tried 3 times to be heard. That is enough. Now we find somewhere else, somewhere we can just be ourselves. I hope Tara is okay. I hope all my alien friends are okay. I wish the stupid council had just let us stay. Hyan saved everything. He organized it all into an archive he called the Monument of Silence. It documented everything humanity did, everything they endured, and everything the galaxy lost. He made it publicly accessible. Any species, any individual could access it and learn the truth. Downloads numbered in the billions. People across the surviving civilizations read about humanity. They learned about the invisible work that kept their world safe. They learned about the children who just wanted to belong. They learned about the council's betrayal. 10 years after the Exodus, Hyan was an old man. His hair had turned gray. His hands shook when he worked too long. But his mind remained sharp, and his purpose remained clear. Document everything. Preserve everything. Make sure the truth survived, even if civilizations did not. The galaxy had stabilized, if such a word could be used. 70% of known space was gone, lost to the void or consumed by the swarm, or simply abandoned as species retreated to defensible core regions. The remaining 30% was crowded, desperate, but alive. 23 species survived, billions of individuals. Not as many as before, but enough. The council chamber was empty now. Hyan walked through it sometimes, his footsteps echoing in the vast circular room. This place had once been the center of galactic power. Now it was a museum, a reminder of failure. Young people came here on school trips. They stood where delegates once sat and learned about the mistakes their ancestors made. Hyan maintained the Monument of Silence in a secure location. Thousands of data cores held humanity's history, their technical documents, their personal logs, their children's artwork, everything that proved they had existed, that they had mattered, that they had been wronged. He had devoted his life to this work. He knew he did not have much time left. Then the signal came. It started as a faint transmission detected by an outer monitoring station. The station was mostly automated, hanging in the darkness at the edge of explored space. It had been there since before the Exodus, maintained more from habit than necessity. The crew on duty almost ignored the signal. Strange readings were common these days. The void caused all kinds of interference, but this signal was different. It repeated a single word in every known language. Goodbye. Within hours, every government, remnant, every military group, every scientific organization was tracking it. The signal came from beyond the galactic rim, from the empty space between spiral arms where no one traveled, from the direction humanity had gone 10 years ago. 3 days later, a second transmission arrived. This one was longer. It contained video. The image showed a woman in a military uniform. She was old, perhaps 70 or 80. Her face was tired but steady. Behind her, through a viewport, stars moved in patterns that did not match any known region of space. The woman spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Gina of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We have been watching. We have been hoping you would find your own path. The time for hope has ended." She paused, as if the next words were difficult. "We left because we believed you would destroy us eventually. Your fear would demand it. We were wrong. You are destroying yourselves instead. The void claims more territory every month. The swarm cannot be stopped with your current capabilities. Your civilizations are collapsing not from external enemies, but from the loss of infrastructure you did not know existed." Another pause. Hyan watched the transmission with tears in his eyes. Other voices in the room were silent. Everyone was listening. "We will not return," Gina said firmly. "This galaxy hurt us too deeply. We asked 3 times to be heard. 3 times you said no. We contributed everything and received nothing but suspicion in return. We built a new home now, beyond your reach, beyond your influence. We are finally free to be ourselves without apology." She looked directly at the camera. "But we will give you a gift you never gave us. A choice. We are transmitting coordinates to 4 stable systems beyond the void. They are empty, safe, and capable of supporting your survivors. We have built gates that will allow evacuation. You have 6 months before the void consumes the core worlds. Save your people. Save your children. And perhaps, in 1,000 years, on the other side of this catastrophe, your descendants will remember this lesson. Wisdom, compassion, and unity are not weaknesses. They are the only true strengths. Those who help you are not threats to be feared. They are treasures to be valued." Gina's expression softened slightly. "Humanity wishes you no ill will. We simply wish you farewell. We hope you build something better in your new home. Something that does not repeat our shared tragedy. Goodbye." The transmission ended. The room erupted in voices. Arguments, debates. Some wanted to find humanity and force them to return. Others wanted to reject the offer out of pride. A few understood that this was mercy. Undeserved mercy from people who had every right to let them all die. Hyan spoke quietly to the nearest commander. "Start the evacuation. Immediately. Every ship, every transport, every vessel that can move. You have 6 months. Do not waste time on pride. Your children deserve to live." The evacuation began that day. It was chaos. Millions of ships moved through space toward the coordinates humanity provided. The gates appeared exactly where Gina promised. Massive constructions of technology no one understood. They opened doorways through space itself, bypassing the void, reaching safe systems light years away. Hyan helped coordinate the cultural archives. Every species was allowed to bring records, art, history. The survivors would need their identities in the new worlds. But he also insisted on including the Monument of Silence, the full documentation of humanity. Future generations needed to know what happened, needed to understand the cost of fear and pride. He met a young Cassari girl during the evacuation. Her name was Syrah. She carried a worn bracelet and a book. She saw Hyan's identification badge showing he was human-raised. "Did you know them?" she asked. "Did you know the humans?" Hyan knelt down to her level. "I worked with them. They were kind. They were brilliant. They just wanted to belong." Syrah held up the bracelet. "My grandmother gave me this. She got it from a human girl named Yuna before they left. They were best friends. Grandmother cried when she told me the story. She said the adults ruined everything. She said I should remember that friendship matters more than politics." Hyan recognized the bracelet. He had seen it in Yuna's video logs. "Your grandmother was right. Remember that lesson. Remember what was lost when people chose fear over friendship." The evacuation took 5 months. Billions moved through the gates to new worlds. They left behind the Nexus Station, the council chambers, the monuments to old civilizations. They left behind pride and prestige and ancient hierarchies. They took only what mattered: people, culture, memory. Hyan was on the last transport. He stood at a viewport and watched the void consume the Nexus Station, the place where Velrith had announced humanity's departure 10 years ago, the place where so many mistakes were made. It disappeared into nothing, erased from existence like it had never been. The transport passed through the gate. On the other side, they found the new systems. 4 stars with habitable worlds. Enough space for everyone. The planets were empty, ready for settlement. Humanity had prepared them, but did not claim them. Just another gift from people who owed them nothing. Hyan helped establish the Monument of Silence in the new capital city. It was built in a central location where everyone would pass it. A massive structure of transparent crystal containing data cores. Anyone could access it. Anyone could learn. He recorded one final message before his death a year later. It played on a loop in the monument entrance. His old face appeared on screens, his voice steady. The galaxy was not conquered by enemies. It was lost to willful blindness. Humanity offered their hands, and we slapped them away. They offered their knowledge, and we called it dangerous. They offered themselves, and we called them unsuitable. Now they are gone, and we have learned the cruelest lesson. You never know what you have until silence falls where voices once offered help. To any species that finds this archive in the ages to come, do not repeat our mistakes. When someone offers partnership, recognize the gift. When someone asks for dignity, grant it freely. When someone contributes everything while asking only for acknowledgement, listen. Listen before the silence falls. Listen before it is too late. Hyan died peacefully in his sleep. The survivors honored him as the keeper of memory. They understood what he had done. He had been the witness, the documentarian, the one who made sure the truth survived when everything else collapsed. The new civilizations grew slowly in their gifted worlds. They built cities. They established governments. They created something different from the old council, something that valued contribution over age, competence over tradition, cooperation over hierarchy. They had learned. The price was terrible, but the lesson stuck out every year on the anniversary of humanity's exodus. The survivors observed a moment of silence. 3 minutes, one for each time humanity asked to be heard, one for each time they were refused, one for the eternity they would remain gone. Children learned about humanity in schools. They studied the technical documents. They read the personal logs. They saw the pictures drawn by human children who just wanted friends. Every student visited the Monument of Silence at least once. They